Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First, let's talk about the Black Alabama boat co-captain who is now accused of assault. We'll bring you the latest of that situation. We all remember that riverboat brawl that happened down in Montgomery, down in Alabama. Well, the co-captain is now being charged with assault, and there's some controversy around that, especially considering the fact that how the situation ended up. We'll talk a little bit about that. Also, let's talk about black representation at Ivy League schools. I got my brother Sinedu Okorafor, who's going to talk about why it's important for us to have some different conversations about black folks at Ivy Leagues. Later on, we'll talk about with my sister Corinna Denise how there weren't enough ballots in one Mississippi county for black voters to vote on Tuesday. Voter suppression? Sounds like it, but I'll give you the details of that. And Keke Palmer has officially filed a restraining order, which was granted from her ex-boyfriend Darius Jackson because she feared that her safety and her son's safety was at risk. I'll share with you the details of why when something goes online that it may not be the story that we all expect. So folks, stay with us. All of that on today's edition of The Culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. And more importantly, happy Friday. Can we get a little horns with that? Because it is Friday. Come on, Lise. Come on, team. Let's get it up for some. Okay, there we go. Man, oh man, I'm so happy that you're joining us. Folks, we're streaming live on a number of different platforms. First, our home platform of blackstarnetwork.com. Make sure you do your due diligence. Support us here on Black Star Network as we continue to create content and power of movement on the digital space. Go to our website today, download it on all of your apps and on all of your devices. And you can do that for free. And certainly follow us on social media under Black Star Network. And give something to help us in this great movement to change the content of Black conversations on social media and in other spaces. So go to blackstarnetwork.com, and we truly, truly appreciate you for your support. Also, we're streaming live on Amazon News, on your Fire TV, on Amazon Prime Video. You can find us there, folks, on Prime Video under Live TV, The News, or find us at Amazon.com under Prime Video, Live TV, The News. We would love to have you watch us on there, as well as on Freevee, where you can find us on now under News, and that would be exciting. Thank you so much for your support, and we're also on Plex TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All right, folks. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on. I got my brother Sinedu Okorafor, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Specialist, joining me for the first half of the show. My man Sinedu. Good afternoon, Sinedu. How you doing, bro?
Can't complain. Just living a dream.
See, you always coming with some deep philosophical. You kicking off the conversation. It's all good, bro. It's all good. Let's talk about first the situation down in Alabama, how the Black Alabama boat co-captain has now officially been accused of assault. Now, I don't know, Sinedu, how serious the situation is going to be, but this is something that very interesting. This was the same captain, y'all remember, who was attacked by white voters while the ship was dockside in that video that we saw, the Alabama melee. There he is, Damian Pickett, whom police have identified as the co-captain of the Harriet II riverboat, was summoned to appear before a magistrate on November the 21st on allegations of assault in the third degree, according to a Montgomery court clerk. Now, there is a man who is filing these charges. This Pickett's family said that they've been told that the charge stems from allegations that the captain punched another man by the name of Zachary Shipman. Shipman said that he claimed he had nothing to do with the brawl and was trying to stop one of his friends from fighting, according to the captain's sister, Nicole Pickett. In Alabama, according to the NBC News, a person can make a misdemeanor complaint and have a magistrate issue a summons for an accused person to answer, according to police spokesperson. What is this all about, brother Sinead? This man is now being charged with now being accused rather of assault after that situation.
I mean, I think it's appropriate to use the words of our good president, currently Joe Biden. This man who was quote unquote unprovoked and attacked, he should have all rights to defend himself, right? No matter
Facts.
in the way. So it's unfortunate that that man was a bystander to the whatever, but how is he supposed to know that when he is trying to protect himself when he's being ganged upon? And I would even push further. I'm not a lawyer or a legal expert. If you were trying to break it up and maybe, let's say, quote unquote, save the man and not help the other folks, wouldn't you be kind of on his side? Wouldn't you be on his physical side? Because I feel like what he's doing now, this white man, is he's trying to run some game on this brother. And I want people to be clear. This is not Montgomery that is suing this man. The city has not made any charges. This is literally these individuals. And I think what's important here, under the guise of everything else that's going on in the world, it's like in the moment we were getting excited over chair guy and people getting their ass whooped and all that. But then which always happens in situations like this, media buzz dies down and then shit like this happens. I hope really good legal representation, but I think he should be able to use self-defense as his story.
Oh, absolutely, bro. And I think that once they see the whole situation, I mean, I don't know how far. And you made this point. The city Northern Montgomery Police Department filed those charges, according to the police. They're only investigating as they say, according to the police statement, the Montgomery Police Department's investigation only lists Mr. Pickett as a victim. So this is a white man that's trying to use his privilege, trying to use the moment right now of trying to bring this black man to some quote unquote some account. Even though we saw the video, the whole country saw the video. Mm-hmm. The whole country saw the video.
Very clear.
And when you see the other shirtless voters coming into this frame, when the captain threw his hat up. And got in. I mean, what y'all expect? People act like, look, man. When a man threw that hat up, man, look, he up in his face, and you see this situation. Now he looks like he walking a way. He trying to handle the situation, right? I guess some words are being exchanged at this point. He's still trying to figure this thing out. Y'all remember this video is actually much longer than this whole situation is much longer than what we've seen on video. Mm-hmm. There was some stuff happening beforehand. There was some stuff happening way up to this moment. Again, if he looked like he was going to commit an assault and he's trying to explain to the man, like, look, you got your boat, I'm trying to move my boat, you're not listening to me. Man, this is baseless. This is absolutely baseless.
And I hope, what I really, really hope is they ask questions about the state of the man who is trying to accuse him. Because if the state of that man, if he was inebriated, then I don't think he has a case. If he had any alcohol in his system compared to the person who was working, where is your case? It becomes baseless. And I think that's what's going to happen as more details. But then again, this is Alabama. And
hey, you said the same thing that ABX girl checking in. ABX girl, good afternoon. Thank you for checking in. You said that as well, ABX girl. This is Alabama being Alabama.
I mean,
this is Alabama being, hey, look, I don't know, look. Sinead, you know it and I know it. You got to take a quick pause. Mm-hmm. We know that at the end of the day, Alabama still got those racist roots, man.
Absolutely.
They still got those racist roots. And, they're making progress in some areas, but then in a moment like this that was highly high profile, which was actual, was racial, it's of course this is Alabama being Alabama. Folks, I gotta take a quick pause when we come forward. We just getting started here in the culture. We're gonna continue the conversation with my brother Sinead, who's culture crew member for the day, for the first half of the show. And let's talk a little bit, not just about this brawl, but I want to talk about this other situation of black representation in Ivy League schools. Get your take on it, get your Navy's take. Let's have a conversation about how we can change the culture there as well. So stay with us. We got a lot to talk about in the first half of the culture right here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. All right, now that let's get out of Alabama for a minute, Brother Sinead, because Alabama going to be Alabama on that. All right, let's talk about what's happening. Let's go to a college campus, and especially these Ivy Leagues, and let's talk about the fact that there is a debate that reports are saying is brewing among Black Ivy League students over representation. Ever since that historic striking down of affirmative action programs at Harvard and University of North Carolina, which had effectively ending systematic consideration of race in the admission process for schools, especially Ivy League schools, now there has been a great concern that Black students and Latino students, the populations of both Black and Latino students, will decline at Ivy League schools. Now, that's one of the first concerns. The second concern is something that is more nuanced. Now that Black students who are descendants of those of us who were enslaved during chattel slavery, now they feel like they are at a minority within a minority, as one student described this. So there is a more nuanced shift around admissions. And this is coming from, take a look at this. This is coming from NBC News, where it says that African American students, and in this article, we're using African American to specifically denote descendants of enslaved people at Ivy League schools, are concerned about a more nuanced shift. Admissions officers may be missing or ignoring the difference between descendants of enslaved people whose families have faced centuries of educational and economic racial disparities and Black immigrant families who still face racism but are less likely to be tied to generational economic hurdles that can make elite educations unobtainable. Some students have formed groups for what they call multi generational African Americans in an attempt to take up space and be counted on elite college campuses where Black students overall are underrepresented, regardless of where they or their parents were born. Let's bring back my brother Sinedu Wakor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Specialist. Sinedu, what's your take on this? Because this is a very interesting nuance. The fact that now you have somewhat of some division between Black college students, especially at these Ivy League schools, Black students who are descendants of parents who are descendants who come from families who were who were enslaved in the chattel slavery period. And then you have Black students who are coming across the waters, those who are coming from Africa and then from the Caribbeans and other students. And it looks like it may be a situation that's brewing where people are trying to figure out who is going to get the benefits or who want to serve as the beneficiaries of admissions at these Ivy League schools. What's your take on that, bro?
I think we have to be careful. This is a concept that I've wrote on a couple of years ago. I call it the marginalized margins. It's when you break down the subgroups within a quote unquote subgroup. I think, when I read that first quote that talks about, those who are descendants of slaves, you all forget those who didn't make it here were still relegated to the same things for longer, even. Because according to history, quote unquote, slavery ended at least legally by XY year or what have you. But the thing about a country like Nigeria, which didn't get its independence until 1963, by that time you still had prominent Black people making their way. You had civil rights. You had people like Thurgood Marshall and so on and so forth. So, like I say that to say there shouldn't be, because this is actually, in my opinion, a tool of whiteness, a tool of white supremacy, when a group that by the quote unquote majority is still looked at as, Jay-Z would say, still nigga, you are arguing over your niggerness, if you will. You were enslaved here, and and it's working on both ends, because on the African side, those people who are coming here and able to go to these Ivy League schools, especially those who have money, it comes from their parents who possibly have benefited off of the whiteness that is going on in that nation. So I just think we should be very, very careful in this delineation, because we're still one Black race. And when the stats are done, you're still looked at as one, whether your parents were enslaved here or your parents happen to not be catched to be enslaved and were in Africa. So I just think that I do agree that there should be some type of understanding of the difference, because we're not a monolith as a people. However, we have to be careful where we're having these conversations, because when you're having these conversations in front of whiteness, they get to benefit from the separation.
What was that first? I want to go back to what you said. What was the piece or the paper, the thought piece that you said, marginalization?
Marginalized margins. That is when a subgroup is subjugated even further. You saw it in slavery, where it's like we were all enslaved, but if you were light-skinned or if you were an overseer, you had a little bit more power. You're still marginalized, but you're not as marginalized as that dark-skinned person that was on the field. And I think it creates a dangerous precedence when that happens.
So if admissions are, well, a couple of things. I think this is very interesting. The fact that this particular part of the conversation is happening at the schools, at an Ivy League school or within an admissions office. This is the very conversation around reparations, right? Lineage versus, you just being Black, right? And Now, like you said, it's going to set a very, I would say, a slippery slope precedent because now you are going to say, okay, do we reward people who are quote unquote whose parents are who have been enslaved versus not been enslaved? And you said the benefit will be white people or whiteness will gain the greatest benefit from this. And I would have to agree. I mean, that level of division, when you start talking about the marginalized margin, when you start breaking people down like, oh, well, you didn't go through this experience, so therefore you can get this perk versus, oh, you went through that experience and I'm so sorry you didn't qualify. And it does. It opens up a huge, like Pandora's box in my mind, Brother Sinedu. That now, imagine you being a black student, and you feel like, you know what, I'm a black student from the States. My parents were descendants of slaves, and I can't take advantage of this stuff. This is very, very interesting, folks. I want y'all to join me in the conversation, crew. I got to take another pause. When we come forward, let's continue to talk about this in more detail. What's your take on this nuance within college admissions that affects Black representation at Ivy League schools, where now Black students do feel like they are going to be divided? You have some Black students who come from parents and from families who were descendants of enslaved people, and then other Black students who are coming across the waters, but he may not have been enslaved. They're still feeling the effects of white supremacist racism, but at the end of the day, they may still get ahead. And how this will play out within the community and especially for the culture. So share your thoughts as we're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page. And of course, stay tuned. We still got a lot more to talk about regarding this topic here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. We are talking about Black representation at Ivy League schools. And now there's some great concern among student leaders, Black student leaders, that there is going to be some level of division and some divide and conquer tactics that are going to be used to reward those students who travel across the water, those Black students who are coming from the Caribbean, whose parents may not be from America, but who are first generation and second generation college students coming from across the water who may gain the benefit of certain policies, admission policies and consideration at Ivy League schools that's not afforded to Black students whose parents have been descendants of chattel slavery here in America. And this is the big conversation that is surrounding the discussion about reparations in this country, the lineage argument, as my sister Lana puts in the chat today, that this is all about race, and that she said this point, and I'm going to bring my brother Shanidu back into this. But she made a point. She said, if you are going to award based on race, then all races can sue. This is 100% a lineage argument. I wish we as a collective would push lineage, and once proven, we argue for impact for all. Let's bring my brother Shanidu Wakor for diversity, equity, inclusion specialist back in. This is a lineage argument, brother Shanidu. This is definitely a lineage argument. The concern that I have is something that was stated in this piece from NBC News, where a sophomore at Pennsylvania, at Penn State, he's a member of the group Descendants of Afro-Americans at Penn, DAP, a student-led group. He was asking the question, just thinking about the amount of African Americans that will be let in next year or the following years to come, is the percentage going to decrease? That's the biggest concern. The percentage of Black students who are from families who are descendants of those who were enslaved in this country, will that number go down? And I think that's a valid concern to have. I think that's a valid concern to have. My support, and to add to that, Shanidu, my concern is that once again, Black folks, Black students are marginalized and put to the side because of the legacy of slavery. If any one of us whose family has who are descendants of slavery, we should have the red carpet rolled out to us. But instead, we're being penalized just because we come from a certain family that was involved in a humanitarian crisis that affected the rest of the world. But once again, in our current system of government here in America, in capitalistic system of government here in America, you're still seen as if it's not enough. You're not worthy. You don't need to be reparations, or even this type. There's no repair that's coming your way as a result of this. Am I looking too deep into this, bro? What's your take?
You're not, and although I think this is a real big problem, if I'm going to be, can I be real, Farajii?
Man, be real, bro. Always be real.
I think all of this shit is white still. And
Yeah.
I think what we should really be concerned upon is why we're putting all of our energy into something that's not for us, when there are over 104 institutions of valor that are literally designed just for us, that are designed based on that condition that we went through of not being able to be looked at as an equal person. And it then asks me, it then begs me that question. This interest in Ivy League, and I do believe in equity and equality, that's important, but does this have anything to do with thinking that white ice is cooler? Because we do have a myriad of successful people. You know, we all clapped and got excited for Robert F. Smith when he paid that debt for the Morehouse students. That's a Morehouse man. Oprah Winfrey went to a HBCU, as did P. Diddy, and so on and so forth. And I say those examples is because if you want to say, okay, well, success rate, look at what HBCUs in particular graduate. Because, okay, you get in. Let's change this thing. Okay, you get in. Let's say the number increases for those who are of enslaved African Americans. Okay, You get in. Now what? You get into a society that still doesn't want you, that you will now have to conform to because you are the minority. Okay. And more importantly, if your dad or mom doesn't have $1 million to put on a building, you really aren't going to get the things that you need. And even then, you're still going to be in the confines of people who don't relate to you. I think this Ivy League conversation has, for me, it has gotten to a point where I keep asking myself, once upon a time, Ivy League, you needed an Ivy League to make a run up in this world. But again, the vice president of this country is a Howard University graduate. Like, is that not enough to show that our institutions are just as competitive, if not better? And I get it. We want equality. We want equity. I get that. But I also don't want to force myself into places where people don't want me there. Because I didn't come to this world to labor. And I don't believe that we should be live in this laborious ideology of I'm going to have to fight, when there are places where you don't have to do that.
Quillia Mission, you checked in and said, good to hear from you, Quillia Mission. You said this is a win for African Americans, a big win. Do not obfuscate this basic fact because of your perpetual victim mentality. You agree with that, Sinead?
No.
Me neither. I don't agree.
Because if it's not a win for everybody black, it's not a win. Because at the
right. In the great words of Issa Rae, I'm rooting for all people black.
That's what I'm saying. Because 9 times out of 10, whether it's that black person from Africa or that black person from Mobile, Alabama, we're trying to make a way for us. And I think it doesn't matter who's quote unquote doing it more or who's doing it less. But it's, to me, I think what matters most, whether it's more African, because guys, do you know who's not having this conversation?
Who?
Asians. The indigenous Asians are not arguing with the Asians coming in from Cambodia, from China, from Taiwan. They're not having this conversation. You know why? Because when you are a complete together community, it doesn't matter what country you're coming from or what area, if you're indigenous, first generation, whatever. It's about, we're doing this for the bigger overall Asian community. I think the real issue here is that blackness is not in unison worldwide when it comes to things like this. And we have to talk about that, because when Freddie Gray died or when Alton Sterling died, no one in Africa was saying that this is not a person from Mali, Guinea-Bissau. It was like, this is a black man. And when things were happening in Africa, we all said, we're one black, we're one black. Why does it change here? Why does it now become different? Again,
I think, and I know we got to take another pause, but I think this has been a cultural sticking point for years, bro. And I know you, with you being your family coming from Africa, you probably heard this literally all your life, right? Like, you're not black. You know, we say stuff like that in the culture, like, no, you're not really black. And that's, I think it's always funny, because I always say to myself, like, shit, man, we here in America. Like, how many black people in America are black, considering how the slave master was violating black women, impregnating black women, right? And some of us are so silly because we look at, oh, you dark, so therefore you don't have white people in your family, or you don't have that quote unquote what they call race, mixing and all of that foolishness. And it's like, at the end of the day, bro, the system that we are currently a part of, the oppressive system of tyranny, the oppressive system of racism, white supremacy, misogyny, patriarchy, these systems do not care if you're from Mali or you're from Miami. When the police pull you over, they don't care if your name is Oscar or Ujokfu. They don't care, bro. like we going back and forth. And I think because we have made it in some degree such a big deal, Sinead, it's like, nah, well, you know what? We got to get ours before they get theirs, bro. We cannot say that we're a global people and we still thinking local.
There you go.
Look, I got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's get more of your thoughts about this, crew. as we talk about Black representation at Ivy League and the nuanced part of this conversation of how admission officers and admission offices at these Ivy Leagues are looking to possibly add some perks and benefits to those who are coming, Black students who are coming from across the water than those who are coming from across the street. We're going to continue the conversation on the other side. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We have been talking about Black student representation at Ivy League schools. And I've been chatting it up with this and having this conversation with my brother Shanedu Wakofor. And talking about this brewing debate about Black Ivy League students who feel they are underrepresented in some cases and overrepresented in other cases. And this debate stems from folks that now there is a nuance to the conversation about affirmative action in race-based college admissions. The nuance is that now there seems to be some friction, I will say some friction, some little tension between Black students who have traveled from across the water from other countries to go to school, to go to these Ivy League schools, and being admitted versus those who have not traveled across the water, but who are from the United States, and how there is some changes or some little bit more consideration for those who have traveled from across the waters because they come from parents and families that have not been directly impacted by chattel slavery here in America. And this is a very, very interesting point. In this piece that the NBC News put out, they highlighted a junior at Penn State. She said, her name is Shannon Brooks. She said when she meets other Black students on campus for the first time, she's often asked about her ethnic background. When she tells people she is African American, meaning her people, her family are from America, that she is a descendant of a family that that was involved in chattel slavery. She said the follow-up question is, where are you really from? And she says to them, I don't have another flag or ethnicity to represent. My family has just always been here. Christopher Butcher, a junior at Princeton, said he did not notice many spaces dedicated solely to African American culture on campus. He said while he enjoys experiencing the cuisine and music tied to Black diasporic cultures when he attends student events, these cultural celebrations reminded him of how isolated he can feel from the Black social landscape on campus. He said, me as someone who isn't Nigerian American or wasn't Ethiopian or Eritrean. I didn't want to take up too much space in an organization that was curated for people with those identities. Come on, talk to me, Sinead. I know you got something in your head. Talk to me, brother.
Again, I'm gonna just say again, this is why HBCUs are very, very important, because you actually get to have a perfect mixing of African and African American. It's very easy because when you're not the minority, it becomes easier to mix different sides of you. Never forget that. I also think in the case of what he's feeling at the institution, I think, with all due respect, I feel like that is more personal. I know. I think it behooves you to, that is your space. Yeah, you may not be Ethiopian, but if something went down, that's why I always tell people, when people say, oh yeah, I'm not African, I'm from Cleveland, okay, when something go down, who you running towards? Who is sharing the same isms with you? And this is just a commonality thing. And it is not to predicate Africans or predicate African Americans, but it is a very good question. But let me tell you why the idea of, more opportunities I was enslaved, then I would impose this question. Okay, you want the benefits for having your space at a PWI or whatever Ivy League because you were enslaved, right? That's true. And your parents were products, or your ancestors were product of that slavery. Now, those folks who were products of that, somebody would say, okay, let's continue down the line. How did they get there?
Right.
Where did they come from? So the original people that they were taken from, are they not entitled as well? And I think the big issue here is this shows you the issue, and I'm going to use a very interesting example. The issue here is that when it comes to Black culture, and remember, Black is what combines all of the melanated people together, because that's a concept that came up about 30, 40, 50 years ago. Black has not been a forever term, but it was a symbol of resistance that put us all together, would make somebody from South Africa and South Side Chicago feel the same.
Feel seen. Right.
The issue is, with our culture of Blackness, through slavery, through segregation, whatever, there has been this huge thing of them over there and them over there. You even see it with the upper echelon African Americans who believe that they're different from the poor African American. I will give you a great example. Look at the Jews. Around the world, it does not matter where you find that group of people, they are always respected and represented by who they are because of the interconnectedness. I think that is where power comes from. It's not just that we're the biggest. It's not about being the biggest or the largest. It's about being the most interconnected. If there is somebody who has never been to Israel a day in their life, and somebody who has lived in Israel every day in their life, and they are representing, quote unquote, Judaism and its principles the exact same way, without even having to meet each other, I think that is one of the biggest issues here. This line in the sand that we're drawing between African Americans and Africa, it really doesn't actually exist, because somebody would say, who was more of a slave? One group or the other?
And to that point, bro, and I know we got to take another pause, but to that point, we as Black folks, whether you're from America or you're from some other part of the world, why the hell do we want to start to compare ourselves to each other based on our oppression?
Which was the same.
Why should we do that? Why do we even engage in that type of talk? Saying, oh, your oppression, it's not really oppression, like black. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the type of stuff that will keep us from moving forward. And now look at how this conversation, again, this is a cultural conversation that has been happening within the Black community for years before this affirmative action decision came down from the Supreme Court. This stuff has been happening for years. So now that the Supreme Court made this decision, and it now is spilling over into the educational space, and we did not fully address the issue when it came up, then guess what? Now we have to confront this on that college campus. I think every Black student needs to have a place and a space for themselves. I agree with that. But just like one of our crew members said, When I was in school in Baltimore at Towson University, a predominantly white institution, we had a thing called the Black Student Union. Now, there was another group that you could have had, African students. They had the ASU, the African Student Union. But then the Black Student Union was the big umbrella for everybody that's dark skinned. Whether you're from Africa, the Caribbean, America, I don't care if you're from Australia, you are part of the Black Student Union. That is the space I think that needs to be focused on. And I think that Black students at these Ivy Leagues can organize and say, even though y'all only 7% at all Ivy League schools, your voice has power. You do not have to submit yourself to this type of division.
That's it.
Students have the power to change the conversation. We have the power to change the conversation, but you don't have to submit yourself to this type of division. Sinead, I know you got to hop off. I truly appreciate your time, your thoughts, and your expertise, big bro. And God willing, we'll reconnect with you next week. But thank you again, man, for being a part of the conversation.
Inshallah. Thank you so much, brother.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to check in with Corinna Denise, our college admissions specialist as well. Maybe I'll just get her take on this. Let me see what she has to say as she's been working in this space. And of course, we're going to talk about some other things on the other side for the second half. So stay with us. We still got a lot more to get to in the second half of the show on The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind $100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. We're just having a fantastic show for a fantastic Friday. Folks, we're talking a little bit about Black student admissions, Black student representation at Ivy League schools. And I wanted to carry this over because, this is right in the wheelhouse of my Next Culture crew member and contributor, Corinna Denise, as she works in the college admissions. And I'm gonna be real with you, Corinna. When we were producing the show, I was like, should I toss this to Sinead because he's in diversity and equity inclusion? Should I toss this to Corinna? So I was like, all right, let me kick it off with Sinead and then bring Corinna in, and because I know you got a lot of insight on this situation. But I appreciate you and I thank you again for joining us on Fridays, as you have been doing. And I love your hair, first and foremost. I love your hair.
The curls are popping.
Your curls are giving.
This is a wash and go, Took a while to achieve this look without doing twist outs, but this is wash and go.
Oh, man, there we go. All right, Corinna, let me get your take. Let me pick your brain about this whole Black student representation piece, right? You are actually a college admissions officer. You do this. This is what you do, but you've been working in the educational space for some time, and educational equity is a huge part of the work that you do. Mm-hmm. How do you see this? How do you see this? Because if Black students are being divided based upon their family history and their lineage in school spaces and at Ivy League schools, such as your Harvards and your Yales and your Princetons and everything, right? And these schools are saying, okay, well, there's no more affirmative action. There's no more Supreme Court decision that forces us to accept based just on race. So now we can accept based on whatever metric we want to use. Mm-hmm. And now, once again, Black students from this country are feeling less seen. Black students in this country feel like they are part of a minority. Black students in this country, as I'm pointing out, how one sister said it in the NBC report, I don't have no flag to show you where I'm from. I'm from America. So when I say I'm African American, when people say, well, where are you from? And I say I'm African American, they're like, no, but where are you from? And you're like, I'm holding up the same flag that's been kicking my ass and oppressing me. Mm-hmm. Mm. So how do you see the situation? How do we bring some sense of some equity into this?
Well, I'll definitely say it's a fine line, right? And just for our audience members, I have worked on both sides of the spectrum. I've actually worked in college admissions, and I've worked on the flip side directly with high school students, parents, and families to walk them through the process of actually getting accepted into college and all of the things. So my view is very 360 per se, but especially when it plays into race, it's from my experience, Farajii, I mean, they're looking at you, they're already going to other us, okay? It doesn't matter if you're Black American, African American, African from the Caribbean, you are considered in their eyes Black. So just to piggyback off of what Sinead spoke to a little bit earlier, it really gives them that power, right? And we have to be really careful about how we're discussing it, depending on the space that we're in, because, they already did a hell of a job dividing us in the first place.
Oh,
let's go back to that, right? So pitting us against each other, that's why we have colorism. That's why, even just to give you a quick example, like what was formerly Hispaniola, a whole island, Haiti and Dominican Republic, you would think they're two different sides where they're so against each other. But I say all that to say, they're not going to really fine tune it to look at specifically what type of Black you are or where you're from in the Caribbean. You just, quote unquote, in a sense, don't necessarily belong. But I also will say, despite the overturning of affirmative action, there are still a lot of schools, and they have yet to be seen if they're followed through on this, who have stated, despite affirmative action being knocked down by SCOTUS, we're still going to continue our holistic approach or view when we are evaluating applicants. Now, of course, other things do definitely play into this aside from just race. A lot of things could be timelines to when you're
Mm-hmm.
applying. The earlier the better, because the admission cycle gets more competitive as they're enrolling students into that incoming class, right? They have more people to compare you to. So the stakes are high. So, there's so many other things in addition to race, and they're not just evaluating an applicant saying, okay, you're this, we're definitely going to pull you in and meet your quota. There are other things they're looking to see that you have, right? Test scores, leadership, what did you write in your essay? And oftentimes they won't necessarily know those specific details of your background outside of race in reference to like ethnicity and nationality, unless you're actually conveying that in some sort of addendum to your application. Maybe they asked you to submit some sort of diversity statement or to go into more specific detail about your background, outside of just checking that box, what your race is, or origin per se. Everyone looks at it differently. It might say race, ethnicity, we know the things, right? When we're trying to check these boxes, and then sometimes we're just like, well, what do I even check? Because someone's asking this and someone else is asking that. But yeah, we really have to be careful, especially in certain spaces, how we're discussing this, because it just gets convoluted. Why do we have to break it down specifically to where you're coming from when essentially, again, to Sinead's point earlier, it was the same brutal experience. It just happened in a different part of the world.
I know we got to take another quick pause, but quick question. I mean, does it benefit any student to say that they're across the water or they're across the street? I mean, in your college admissions, does that
No.
when an admissions officer takes a look at your essay or they have that interview, do admission officers say, you know what, I mean, by him coming from across the water, he's really showing that he is serious and he's ambitious and he's focused on his education. Does that type of conversation come up?
Not in my experience. It has not come up. They're looking holistically to see, well, what have you accomplished as a student? What opportunities did you try to take advantage to that you had access to, right? Because a lot of schools don't even have the same course offerings. Not every school has 10 AP courses to offer. Some may have 5. I've visited schools that have 1. So they're going to look at the school profile to say, okay, this is the curriculum the student had. What did they actually take advantage of? What clubs, what organizations are at their school? What did they participate in? So I haven't come across that. I don't want to say that hasn't happened, but in my career, that's been over about 15 years now, I have never seen in my experience where someone is saying, you know what, this particular person, they're coming from quote unquote, and I don't even like using that, Farajii, across the water or from the Caribbean,
Right.
They stand out, more so than maybe someone right here in this country, another Black American. I haven't seen that in my experience, and I think that's really a warped way of evaluating something or evaluating a person, a student, right? You're looking to see what are they actually going to bring to campus as a whole to be successful.
Absolutely. Tia Z, you said, let's be real. A big part of the university's motivation is cha-ching money.
Yeah.
Folks out of the state and or country are charged more. CA really had this problem. California really had this problem getting more international students than California residents, right? You're right, Tia. I think that's a huge part of it. Robin Welch, you said once we are given the chance to enroll into college, no matter what college it is, we bring it. We just have to be given the chance. Absolutely. And then Qualia Mission, you said, I'm not going to politicize the truth because I'm afraid of otherization. We are winning in the college and educational arena.
Yeah, there are a lot of other factors. But what I will say quickly though, you mentioning if someone looks at, a student saying, oh, they came across from here, that happens a lot of times with legacy. With, I'll just say other students, white students, and
with more like white
all the
European
other
students?
list of things just gets tossed to the wayside. Like that doesn't even matter anymore. Oh, mom, grandma, so-and-so went here. Okay, yeah, you're in.
Yeah.
And even sometimes they'll accept them conditionally with a warning, but ultimately they let them in. They get that, advantage, unlike us.
Right. Cindy D, you said the state college where I am is focused on its international students. They even get free rides. And I've heard that. I've heard that international students get a little bit more perks and benefits of college enrollment and admissions. I've heard that.
Yeah.
And again, here's the thing. We know this type of division can come from institutions, and we know this type of division exists, folks. What I think that we have power to change is how we have the conversations were among us as a people, and then two, that we don't create this barrier, that we do see ourselves as one, whether you coming from across the water, whether you coming from the states, like we create this conversation. And I think that a lot of these schools, like, it's interesting because folks act like schools didn't pay attention to what that great Supreme Court decision was all about, like they didn't look at the devil in the details of that decision. And they know that that type of conversation, the cultural division currently exists. They know that. They know that. So it's we can't be, and I'm saying we as black folks in this country, we can't act like, man, like, oh, this is just among us. Hell no, this ain't just among. Nothing is among black folks by black. Come on, even if, regardless of the platform, the medium, the type of conversation. When Black America has a conversation, whether we're talking to ourselves or talking to people outside of ourselves, guess what? Everybody still tunes in. Everybody still listens.
And you know what, quickly, because I know we got to go to break, but you know how we often have to push and say, black folks are not monolithic? It's almost as if, I dare say, they do see us as monolithic, right? Where they will group us all into that one category and not separate us. And that in itself has created so much division that it kind of feels like we're taking it a step further beyond, the overall consensus of affirmative action being knocked down to now we want to break us down as a people into now all these other additional subcategories to get an education. And just one more thing quickly, just to piggyback on the HBCU conversation, I love HBCUs. But here's the thing, as a college counselor, I've often struggled, how do I get my kids there? Because I'm getting them in, but then costs, that's why, my friend had to create the scholarship plug, trying to create awareness and get scholarships for students. Location. I'm an inspiring lawyer. I want to go to law school, but I'm here in Florida. I would love to go to an HBCU law school. There are only 6. And right now, my life just doesn't afford me the luxury to just pick up and move. So sometimes it's just accessibility too. So, the dollars, if they're there, then we can get our kids to go away. Someone in California might not necessarily have access to an HBCU. They have to go, to the other side of the country, and that's not always feasible. So it's not that they don't always want to go, but access is something that we really have to create a pathway to get more of our students to go, because they want to, but there's some other blockades there that we're working to clear up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, we're going to shift gears on the conversation, folks. Let's talk about how Mississippi precincts actually ran out of ballots for Tuesday's election day, and how county election leaders are not answering the big question of, how did this happen? How did you run out of ballots? And some are calling this another form of voter suppression. And we're going to be checking in with Corinna, and I would love to hear what you have to say on this as we talk about this issue on the other side. Plus, let's talk about Keke Palmer, how she has filed for a restraining order and was granted one from her ex-boyfriend, Darius Jackson, saying that he was abusive and she feared for the safety of herself and her son. But there's a little bit more to this conversation that I want us to have a discussion about. So we'll discuss that as well. So stay with us. Still a lot more to cover here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Let's switch gears. Let's talk about college admissions to now something else that is very near and dear to Corinna's heart, which is politics. Politics. Let's bring Corinna Denise back into the frame here. My sister, college admission advisor. She is I'm a political operative for you, and that's the name I'm gonna throw it in. You're a political operative at this point.
Wait, one thing though, it's not politics necessarily that's near and dear to my heart. It's us. It's my people, right? Black people. And we got to just leverage politics to our advantage. So that's what it is. But if you want to call me a political operative, I'll take it. Okay, I'll take it.
I'm just waiting for you to finish to tell you that's bull. That's bull, Corinna.
Explain.
Every time, Corinna. Every time we have a conversation about politics, right? Guess who's blowing up the chat?
All right. All
right, so look, this is going to get under your skin, Corinna. Let's talk about Hinds County, Mississippi, folks. If you are familiar, if you may not know what's going on in that part of the world, but Hinds County, Mississippi is a predominantly black county down in Mississippi that leans Democrat. For some reason, I think Lana probably knows where Hinds County is because she know about these little small areas where our people are. But Hinds County, Mississippi, predominantly black county that leans Democrat. Hey, take a look. This is the report coming from the Griot. This particular county ran out of ballots, Corinna, in 9 precincts for Tuesday's election, and none of the 5 election commissioners have answered an essential question. How many ballots did they print initially for a critical election in which residents would elect a governor, lieutenant governor, and 8 members of the executive branch, including the treasurer and attorney general? They ran out of ballots in Hinds County. Now, there are 149,000 registered voters in Hinds County, Mississippi. Now, take a look at quote number 2. Let's throw that up there. According to state statutes, counties must provide ballots for a minimum of 60% of the registered voters. In Hinds County, there are more than 149,000 registered voters, according to the Election Commission website. That means they should have printed at least 89,400 ballots. Hinds County is 73.5% Black, with a median income of $46,000, $46,179, and 25% of the population lives in poverty.
Mm.
Look, let me just tell y'all something, man. Let me tell y'all something. If y'all don't think that racism and all that our people have gone through is still not alive and well in Mississippi, Alabama, and some. No, you know what I'm saying? Because you feel me? Because people tend to believe like we in this very, nuanced, post-racial, even though some people say post, we're in this technological, scientific, like we've moved, quote unquote, we moved on. Can you imagine living in a county where the median income is less than $50,000 a person?
Mm.
And then to top that off, 25% of the people that live in the county are in poverty. You're talking about a level of poverty, and I'm not talking about just any poverty. I'm talking about less than $50,000, or they're considered to be impoverished. And then let's throw this out there. And on top of that, when they just try to exercise their right to vote, they ran out of ballots in 9 precincts of the county. So how do you think Black folks in Hinds County, that is nearly 75% Black, feel about themselves, man? Like, do we, you know what I'm saying? For us urban dwellers, we movers and shakers and all this thing, we really do, and I hope that we do, think about our people that are in some of these places, and they're choosing to be in these places, right? Because maybe a family, or they may feel like they just can't branch out because the world, that's all they know. Whatever the reason is, I feel like this is a conversation not just about ballots. This is a conversation of our people being forgotten. Because I bet you if you go to Hinds County, Mississippi, you will probably see a place that is full and rich of history, but as in some cases are forgotten. And I'm not saying to take pity on them, but I want us to acknowledge and give space to them, because we got to remember that when we talk about the struggle, there are people who are still, embroiled in that, entrenched in the struggle.
Yeah, and oftentimes we forget that, right, Farajii? Like there are people actually feeling the collateral damage on the ground in real time. And, that's where a little of my pushback has been when we're so quick to say, well, let's boycott. It's like, well, yeah, how do you organize that? And how do you make sure our people are taken care of in the meantime? Or they're just like, you know what, get your passport. I'm moving back to Africa. Well, everyone doesn't have the luxury to do that. That is the reality. And it's not because I don't want to, but I can't. My family is here. My people are here. So this is where I have to be. And, hey, yeah, if I had a magic wand and I could change it like that, I would. But I got to work with what I got. And then, this whole story with the ballots, I'm not buying it. And as I was reading the article, Fernando, I'm not sure who that is. I guess that's maybe one of the officials who was going over. I'm just looking at my notes, y'all. Don't mind me. But she said something.
Oh, you're talking about Shirley Bernardo. Shirley Bernardo. Yes. She's one of the election commissioners for District 5 down in Hinds County.
Yeah, so
yes,
they're
ma'am.
saying that she did speak to WLBT, but she described the lack of ballots as a positive result, saying, yes, and quote, that's a good thing because that means lots of people are coming out to vote today and they are taking this process very seriously, and we really appreciate that. I think that's bullshit, Farajii. You know why I say
Let me
that?
tell you something.
I think they were intentionally ill prepared to make it seem or to give this appearance of, oh, so many people are coming, we ran out. You should never run out. You should never run out. You should have more than what you need. You should have been prepared. And I think that them being ill prepared was intentional for it to run out. So see, now people are actually who are in these positions with those atrocious numbers that you just shared with us, Farajii, are trying to have their voice heard to cast their vote. They're going to the precinct, and now you're telling me I don't even have a ballot to cast my vote? That's foolishness. That is some BS right there.
So let's look at this, and I'm glad that you brought this up. And during the moment, we take another pause. But let's look at this really quickly. If the law is that you have to provide ballots for at least 60% of the registered voters, and that's 89,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
You got 149,000 people that are registered. So you mean to tell me you are just doing management stuff? You are just doing minimum requirement stuff.
The bare minimum.
The bare minimum to say, okay, let's print 90,000. Let's print 90,000 ballots. And then they run out, and then you're like, well, I mean, it's a good thing because they're not. No. How many ballots did you actually print out? That's the big question.
Right.
See, if you printed out 150,000 ballots and then you ran out, that's one thing. You could be like, oh, all of the registered voters, you got new registered voters. But if you printed out 90,000 ballots, but then 100,000 people came out to vote, then that's just a form of suppression.
Mm-hmm.
That means that you really weren't expecting a lot of people to come out to vote because these are pivotal races. I mean, these are pivotal. Governor? That's one of the most pivotal races you can vote for. Outside of mayor.
Right.
And council people, I mean, the governor makes a huge play. The lieutenant governor. Then you have in this particular county, and I told you Lana knew what she was. I knew Lana, we're going to talk to small town Lana. And she's small town. She's small town. She knew this. She said Hinds County is Jackson, Mississippi, which is the capital of Mississippi. How the hell in the capital of Mississippi do you not have enough ballots for all the precincts? Either you were banking on either you were banking that people weren't going to get involved, or there's just some poor leadership. But something got to give. There's no way in the world. You should be having so many.
Some of everything. Poor leadership. You were banking on people not coming out. And then, again, for that comment to be made by Bernardo to say, I think this shows that so many people wanted to come out to vote. Like, I think it was a setup. It was intentional to not be prepared so that when all the folks showed up, you wanted to make it seem like a whole bunch of folks were coming out to vote. Like, I don't even know if those numbers are accurate. You know what I'm saying? I think it's just to be appealing to the eye to make something seem what it really isn't. I think that is what the intention was. And this whole thing was just on purpose. And that governor's race in Mississippi was very, very important. But unfortunately, they still got that racist in the governor's mansion, but
Hey, look, very quickly, Lori Parks, you checked in and said, so what happened? Did the voters get a chance to vote? If not, I would personally sue because I couldn't vote.
Ooh.
Now, look, now that's a great idea, Lori. The thing is that if you are part of a county that does not, that is already facing a bunch of challenges, you're already embroiled in a bunch of struggles, political struggles, economic struggles, right? You may not go that far. You may just be like, man, damn, I tried to vote and I couldn't vote, so therefore I didn't vote. So, it is what it is, maybe the next election cycle. And here's the question. Can you really say that whoever was voted in for that election, that it was a vote of all the people? Because now you're talking about disrupting the integrity of the whole voting process. And if a group of people who came out to vote and they was not allowed to vote, then can your election to the office be considered legitimate?
And boom, there it is. And you know what? I think Lori has
And again, this is in the
what kind of
county.
legal recourse they do have, right? You know, hopefully maybe one of those groups like, you know, like Black Voters Matters, we have Equal Ground here in Florida, a lot of them who have gotten involved and have brought cases, you know, for many different things, gerrymandering and the sort, to sue, right? To take legal action against these egregious acts from our so-called leaders or whatever we want to call them. But yeah, this is, I'm not buying it. You didn't just have a outstanding turnout. You intentionally withheld enough ballots because you
And
knew
even if they voted, because my team is telling me that they ran out of ballots around the 2:45 mark, and I got to take a quick pause. But then there was some reports saying that they ran out of ballots as early as 9 a.m.
Damn.
They ran out of ballots as early as 9 a.m. I saw that. Yep. They said on Tuesday, Black residents had a difficult time voting. People stood in line for hours. Some voting sites ran out of ballots by 9 a.m. and other sites had potential voters fill out paper ballots while in line.
It'd be interesting to see maybe some of the other counties in Mississippi, some that might be more predominantly white, you know, kind of looking at those numbers to see the preparation there.
That would be interesting.
Balance, right? To kind of compare.
And that would be, and unfortunate, I'm not throwing this out there, but they said the locations that ran out of ballots included Pineview Baptist Church, Wildwood Baptist Church, Northside Baptist Church, Haven Baptist Church, the Clinton YMCA, and St. Thomas. So out of 7 locations, 5 of those 7 were churches. Man, y'all trying to screw Black folks over. Let me take another quick pause. When we come back, more conversation with Corinna about this. And let's talk a little bit about Keke Palmer. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, y'all. Welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad, joined by my sister, Corinna Denise, culture crew member, college admissions officer, activist, political operative. She getting it in today, y'all. She getting it
Thank
in.
you.
We've been talking about the situation down in Hinds County, how they ran out of votes, Hinds County, Mississippi. And essentially, they ran out of ballots, rather, not votes, but they ran out of ballots for Tuesday's election. And some of you may have heard about the story and others may not. But it is a story, another story of something is not happening there in Hinds County. Some level of incompetence is happening there. I looked up Hinds County, and I'm gonna be ignorant. I'm gonna be ignorant right now, Corinna. So crew, y'all just ride with me. I bet you these people are black. Y'all wanna play this little game? Let's see if these people are black. And I'm going to tell you why, because I can just tell by the names. Latoya Gilmer McGee.
Wait, it's not funny, but Fried, you're going to make me.
Look. These are.
Over there.
I bet you. Let's play a game, y'all. I bet you these people are black. The election commissioners. These are the 5 election commissioners. Let me just tell you, because this is absolutely insane. As much as we talk about voter suppression, as much as we talk about getting involved, this should not be happening with so little few people. I mean, 149,000 people. Some of that people, if you live in cities, you got that in single communities, not whole towns, not whole counties, right? So this should not be hard. But they have 5 election commissioners there in Hinds County, Mississippi. And I'm going to name every 5 one of them. And I bet you these people are black. Kendata Brown. She's the representative for District 1. She's the election commissioner for District 1. District 2 is Latoya Gilmer McGee. Is she black, Corinna? You think she's black? Here's the next one. Jamal Clark for District 3. You think he's black? Yvonne Horton. She's District 4. You think she's black? And Shirley Venato, District 5. That's the Hinds County Election Commission, and I bet you they are all black. And now here's why I bring this all up, y'all. Here's why I bring this all up. Because I think this who said this? This is absolutely what it is. Monkey Confessions, you said, what is the point of having black representation if they are not being proactive in protecting us? They seem to be able to do it for groups they don't represent. I bet you these people are black. And I'm saying that because this is unacceptable. In 2023, and you read that statement from Shirley Venato talking about, it's a good thing. I mean, I guess people came out. But when the question was asked, how many ballots were printed? No, not one election commissioner can say exactly. First thing, how you an election commissioner? How many times does an election come around? Like, come on, think about this. How many times does an election come around and y'all fumbling and bumbling? Oh man, we don't have the ballot. We don't know how many. And then you can't even answer the question. That means that either you did not expect black folks to vote, you do not want black folks to vote, or your leadership is so incompetent. And I'm going to just say that you are an elections commission. That's your job. Your job is to make sure that on election day that comes up every 4 years.
While all the things are aligned, right? That everything's in order, that you have enough staff, enough ballots. And to your point, it's 149,000 people. Like it's
149. Don't come to Los Angeles. Don't come to Miami. Don't come to, man, we don't need that experience.
Like, and then all the churches that were precincts, like that is no coincidence in my view.
No,
there's a common thread there. You know, most of the churches you name and just to your point, you were naming all the names and saying they're black. I bet they're black churches. We know that. You know, this is a no-brainer.
I bet you. I mean, and I think that's a very serious point. I bet you these are black churches. So you got black churches now. Who are going to the black churches to vote? unless you got black women, older black women, right? You got black women who probably been election workers there for years, decades, still holding on to the hope we're gonna get our people to come out and vote. And the churches are closest to the community, right? So you got all these churches that they when voters show up, they're like, well, we don't have any more ballots and blah blah blah. And whether it's 9 a.m., 2:45, whatever the time is, we don't have the ballots.
And even if they went about it saying, you know what, let's just put it this way, even if they went about it saying, you know what, we don't think everyone's going to show up, so we don't really need to prepare based on the number of population, it still doesn't matter. Your job is to make sure you have all the things for the people when they arrive. And then, you know, your production crew, Farajii, you know, mentioned how, you know, there was a stall in the line from like 2:45 until like 4:15. That's a long time.
That's a long time.
It's so intentional that, you know, people are probably, you know, running in there on their lunch break or kind of in between running errands and stuff. And it really shouldn't take that long to get in and cast your ballot and vote. But we know that these things are intentional to be deterrents so that we're not voting. And I hope this raises awareness as to why it's so important for us to vote. You know, when we're so quick to just withhold our vote, this is an exemplar right here of why we need to continue to fight for it, because it's not just about, you know, what our ancestors did, but it's what we're living through in real time right now. Like those numbers that you mentioned just a while ago about, you know, the demographics and the population, you know, that speaks to a much bigger issue. And if your voice isn't being heard to select the policy makers to make policy that directly impacts your life, you know, then how do you live? How do you survive? How do you thrive? So we have to keep pushing. But, you know, it's terrible. It's unfortunate. I'm sure that's happened other places. I'm like, man, damn, I'm in Florida and I haven't heard anything like that.
Never heard of this. Hey, Corinna, you and I are both in big cities. If you're talking about a big city, it's more understandable. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, if more people are registered in a big city or registered to vote, then that's going to drive the numbers. But here's the thing. Like, get up off your lazy ass and print some ballots. Print it for every single registered voter.
That's right.
And then matter of fact, you print a little bit more than the number of registered voters because you hope that more people become new voters.
Even the damn airlines overbook. You know, I can't get my carry-on sometimes talking about we have a full.
You also know who overbooks?
No, you should have had. Say it again, Farajii.
I said, you know who else overbooks? When you go to the buffet restaurant. If the buffet restaurant overbooks, man,
yeah.
And guess what?
We dissected it enough. It is what it is. We know
it. We know exactly what it is. Grandma Sings Too. You posted, this is a good lawsuit for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund or the SPLC. I think so. I think you have a great point, Grandma Sings Too. Thank you so much. Cindy D, you said a number of things. You said, where the heck is the DOJ, the Department of Justice? Right. Absolutely. Where's that? But before we even bring in the Department of Justice, let's bring in those organizations like the NAACP, the Urban League. Let's talk about the SPLC. Let's bring in those organizations that can hold our people, and they probably have some presence in those smaller communities. Alana, you tell me if I'm right or wrong on that. I'm sure there's an NAACP office that's close by in that part of Mississippi. There's got to be something.
Farajii says that voting activists are going to meet next week to discuss legal recourse. So sounds like.
Let me tell you the first legal recourse, and I'm glad to hear that. Thank you so much. Let me tell you the first legal recourse. Cut all of the election commissioners. Get new commissioners. Get them all.
Yeah, man.
Sorry. Fire them all.
Why did it have to be one of us? All the names you named. But you know what?
And guess what? You know what my team said? They all black. How come I'm not surprised?
Lord.
They're black. Landon Turner, you said I'm not ready to pin this all on the election committee. I'm sorry, knowing what we already know. NAACP is already working on a case for Mississippi. It's not all of them.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I need some more details. I don't know if maybe they're the ones set up to take the fall because they are the commission. If there's some other pieces to
Who
that
else?
puzzle.
Who else would it be? And I'm not trying to be an ass about this. I'm being very serious.
No, I
Who
understand.
else would it be?
We need to find out who they report to. Like, I'm just saying it's ironic. Did they set them up for them to take the backlash, the fall? I don't know. But then at the same time, those sentiments or that, what Venato said about, oh, this speaks to, people are really turning out that we ran out. No.
See that could
That's like it's convoluted. There's a lie up in there, all up in here.
right. See, when you respond like that, that sounds like let me cover my ass type of response. Like you knew that you didn't expect people to come out and vote. And in some degrees, I've heard this. And look, in Baltimore, we had issues with election integrity, not all the time, but recently, over the past 10 years, there have been issues with elections, right? And I hate to say this, and y'all know what I'm about. Y'all know what the sentiment. Some black folks get so comfortable getting that check because they got a statewide job and they got some sense of security and they don't go all out for our people when it's necessary, right? Because if you are part of an election commission, if you are part of a commission, if you are the director of the voting board, your role is not, this ain't the 1960s. This ain't the 1970s. This is the 2020. This is 2023. The elections are heavy. They are important. They are critical now that you got to cross all your T's and dot all your I's. There's no way in the world that this is okay.
No.
In 2023. You mean to tell me you did not have enough balance? I mean, on a very, very, just on a basic fundamental level. That's not okay. That's not okay. Counting ballots is a problem. But damn, if you can't even provide the balance.
You know what? One more thing, Farajii. I think this speaks to the fact as well that a lot of us need to get involved.
Okay, talk to me.
And I mean, election day, right? To go out and work the polls. Like, oftentimes you see a lot of older people, retired. A lot of young people need to get involved in this effort and actually kind of get an idea, all those transitions. What do these operations actually look like on election day to kind of be able to call out the things, beforehand so that we can get a hold of it and prevent it from happening again. And hopefully, and these are also paid positions, right? For the day to work the polls. So I'm just trying to think of, a way for us to resolve this, kind of having another eye outside of those who are actually put in place who are supposed to be responsible. So maybe that would, help, maybe, people who are more sharp and can pick up on things more quickly to be like, hey, now, like you're supposed to have X of this and you only got that. We need to get that corrected immediately, right? Like someone else to call them out, before it gets to this point, before they ran out or where they can actually execute their little plan to prevent us from voting. So that's just some ideas that I have that maybe we can get involved there to kind of see, relegate this thing a little bit better. But yeah, this should have just never happened.
And guess what? We're living in a time, and I know we ain't got enough time to go deeper into the statement I'm about to make, but we are living in a time where some black folks don't want other black folks to vote. Like some black folks are a part of the voter suppression effort. You know what I'm saying? And I've heard some black folks, and I know some of them, like, when it's coming around, like if you're an election worker or you work in a voting space and vote and the election comes up, that's a lot of work. There's a lot of accountability. There's a lot of responsibility. I know some of these folks are probably like, man, I don't want to deal with all this, man. I don't want to deal with the counting and all Miss Jenkins is coming back and blah, 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 blah. Look, they're not going to come out to vote. This is not like we do get into a space like that with our jobs, not understanding that when you are an election worker, when you are a commissioner, that voting today is just as pivotal as any other, civic engagement activity. Yeah. So it's not, you can't just be like, Oh boy, you can't just play it like that. You can't play it like that. Like, because at the end of the day, if these folks don't vote, that could literally be the difference between somebody that's not in their best interest getting into office versus somebody that is in their best
Right.
interest getting into office.
Yeah, because the people who are
So
of no benefit to us get in there with very little votes. It's not like they win
very
by a
little, and,
landslide.
and especially in a space like a Hines County where you only got 149,000. So
Right.
if you only have 60 or 70,000 people that actually voted and everybody else had to, and then you get a governor or you get a lieutenant governor, or you get an attorney general, or you get members of the executive board that is voted in, but that extra few thousand votes could have made the difference.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's a domino effect on all of this. It could have made the difference, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I know Pastor Damon said, Brother Farajii, the voting election seasons happen at different course of times. It's not always 2 to 4 years, right? And that's true
Yeah,
because you
that's
got to
true.
get prepared for that, right? And you do have, primaries and all of those things.
That's right.
But guess what? It doesn't happen every single year. You still have a large gap of time to prepare.
And listen, they got more than enough time. They have more than enough time.
You mean to tell me you ain't know the election was going to come up in November?
They knew. They knew. They knew Farajii. We know they knew.
No, you know what I'm saying? Because I hate black folks screwing over other black people.
I know. That's
the
what
point.
pisses me. I'm like,
Because
damn,
that's the
why
point.
does it be us?
Black folks screwing over other black people.
Yeah.
And then we be like, well, why y'all mad? Because you keep screwing us over. We already get screwed over by everybody else. Now we got to get screwed over by our own people? Because of your incompetence or your laziness or we didn't expect. And then you're gonna come up with some dumbass statement to them like, it's a good thing that we ran out of ballots.
That was a
When
dumbass
the hell has that have been a good thing? Y'all tell me. Just that statement alone, Shirley Bernardo, that's the dumbest thing you could ever say as an election commissioner. It's a good thing because that means that people are voting, but you can't answer the question as to how many ballots you actually printed out. But you say it's a good thing. Yeah, get your ass out of the election commission, man. We don't need it. If you giving us that, sometimes, man.
We should be figuring out, well, you know what? How do we get her a job? Maybe someone else needs to have the job. But
hey, come on, man. Like, how did we get her job?
Yeah.
Think. That's all you got to do is think. That's the dumbest statement.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's one of the dumbest statements I ever heard. I've never heard an election commissioner say it's a good thing that we ran out of ballots because it shows that people are coming out. But you cannot answer the question how many ballots you actually printed.
It was the same thing.
That is insane to me.
But we know better.
I know. Oh, my sister Corinna always bringing the heat on Friday. You always bring this out of me on Friday. So, Corinna, thank you so much.
Y'all make sure next week. We kind of.
Yeah, of course. We always like to spar. We always like to go back. Make sure y'all follow Corinna there. Make sure y'all follow RenRen84 on all social media, y'all. That's her. RenRen. Is it Ren_Ren84, correct?
You got it.
Ren_Ren. REN_REN84. Follow her on social media. She's doing some great things. She's getting
it's
involved.
Ren, not Ren, y'all. Ren. Okay?
Ren. My sister Corinna Denise, thank you so much. One of our great culture crew members. We always appreciate you. Look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, Farajii. Peace, crew.
Absolutely. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Didn't get to the Kiki Promise conversation, but we will certainly do our best to try to do that next week sometime. But I thank each and every one of you for being a part of the conversation. And y'all know how I feel. I'm kind of passionate about this stuff, but this is a high level of incompetence here. This is not good, folks. This is not good, especially as we are embarked in election season. We got a major presidential election coming up. This is not good. This got to be remedied like soon, like right now. But I appreciate each and every one of you for joining us, and not just for joining us for today's show, but for this whole week having dynamic conversations, and I am just very, very just overwhelmed with joy that we are able to continue to give you these type of conversations and have these discussions in a way that is culturally relevant to you. So, folks, thank you, thank you, thank you for being with us this whole week. More importantly, do your due diligence and support us here at Black Star Network. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Please download the app on all of your devices. Follow us on social media and give something to help us financially continue to power this movement, to have these discussions. As you know, we try to have these conversations that the big news agencies do not talk about, or if they do talk about it, it's only like a 2-minute soundbite. We try to dig deeper and, more importantly, get you involved in the conversation. So your support means everything. So go to blackstarnetwork.com and make sure that you support us. All right. Stay tuned. Up next at 6 p.m. is Big Brother Roland Martin for Roland Martin Unfiltered. Make sure y'all check that out. Big shout out to my production team of Joel and Shannon and Keenan and Lise and Maddie and Chris. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But more importantly, thank you for tuning in. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk next week for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, only here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. Talk to you soon. Have a great weekend. Happy Veterans Day to all of the veterans out there. Talk soon. Peace.